you're doing fabulous. Happy Valentine's Day. Today I'm going to present you all this palette that I created as a custom-made palette for January, February. I actually made this palette sometime in, I want to say even as far back as November. And I got to play around with it in my own time. And I never got to present it to you all. So we're going to do it right now. And I thought it's a good palette for Valentine's Day. So no better time to talk about it than today. Originally, the palette that I created only had this 6 shade. Then over time, I kept adding more shades to make it this 8 pan. And then I thought, you know, you can even replace this one with that one for a different type of a look. And then when I was sort of playing with it even more sometime in December, I thought about even adding this last row for a completely different flare if I want to do it a 12 pan palette. So the idea here is for me to give you all some ideas and inspire you to play around with the single shades that you have and create your own custom made palettes at home. And you can try to mix and match whatever works for you. How I'm going to swatch these shades today is going to be a little different. I'm going to first swatch all the mattes because for those, I don't need to show them to you all from a different angle. And then after that, I'm going to swatch all the shimmers. And beauties, the reason I even made this palette was because I wanted to do something a little different for Valentine's Day. So I called this palette My Anti-Valentine. So the first shade that I'm going to swatch for you all is Berry Blitz from Luxie Beauty. And beauties, you know how much I love Luxie Beauty mattes. This is an absolutely gorgeous reddish shade. This is not a true red though. This has a hint of coral inside of it, which actually makes it even a better color for this kind of a palette because I feel like a complete red would not have gone with all of the pink shimmers that we have. Our next matte is Zinnia, also from Luxie. This is also a super beautiful, colorful shade, which is sort of a light magenta, absolutely gorgeous. Now doing these two, both of which are from Sydney Grace. The first one is Regal, which is sort of a light gray that has a hint of purple in it. And originally I picked this one because I thought the purple really goes with the pinks that I picked for the palette. And then I kind of got inspired by it to add those other purple mattes that I'm going to swatch in a minute as well. I'm going to use this shade in one of the looks. You're going to see how it is actually purple. Our next matte is Officer, also from Sydney Grace. This one is a complete neutral shade. Look at this. Also super gorgeous. It is the darkest matte in this palette. If you want to deepen out any of these other colors, if you go only with these mattes for the palette, this is a great option because it's neutral. It goes with all of these shades. If you stick around, beauties, I'm going to show you 2 looks with this palette. I'm now going to continue with swatching these 2 mattes for you all, which are Electric Purple and Toxic from Give Me Glow. I'm going to swatch this one over here. And you can see the difference between these 2 colors is not as much on my skin, but they definitely look like a different color in the pans. And because we just saw that I had a hard time fitting 6 shades on my hand, and of course with these shimmer shades, I really want to make sure you see all the shifts. I'm going to first swatch these 4 and then continue with swatching those 3. Our first shimmer shade is Nocturne Ash from Divina. I have swatched this also in a different video where I swatched all of the Phantom Orb collection from Divina, which this shade is from. This is such a beautiful, very shimmery, very smooth and creamy, yet shifty shade. You should be able to see the magenta undertone with the overtone that goes pink to gold to kind of bronzy all the way to green. This is such a pretty shade if you want to put it across the lid. My next shade is a holochrome called Empyrean from Copacetic Cosmetic. This is actually one of my favorite holochromes, and it's also a super Valentine's-y shade because it has a purple and a pink shift for a holochrome. And I believe some of these Copacetic holochromes are the most economically available in the market. If you care about the price of these, this is of course a pretty flaky shade, so maybe it's best used over a tacky base. But you should be able to see the purple shift with the green to teal overtone. That in fact from some angles it's also pink, from some angles it's also gold. I'm going to show you these swatches from a different angle and different lighting in a minute. The next single that I picked is Starburst from Terramoons. This is also one of those beautiful, super wet looking pink shimmers with a blue shift. This is kind of flaky, as you can see. Also, again, perhaps best used over a tacky base. So the undertone of this color is magenta pink, kind of the color of my shirt. And then the glaze over it goes sort of tealish blue to gold. And from some angles, I even see white, like silver. And perhaps even green. My next shade is a beautiful pink single from Luxie Beauty. This is one of those singles that I would definitely pay more than $2.50 or whatever, $3, whatever I paid for it. I would definitely pay more than that for this single. It's Pixie Dust, and it goes kind of magenta to pink to gold. It has a really beautiful but subtle gold shift. And this shade is also kind of flaky and perhaps best used over a tacky base. I think of the 4 shades that I swatched, the only one that's shimmery that doesn't really need a tacky base is Nocturne Ash from Divina. Okay, beauties, continuing with our last 3 singles. The first one is this beautiful one, also from Luxie Beauty. This is Scream, another shade that I would pay more than $3 for. How do I describe this? Because this isn't really gunmetal. This is sort of a brown, like a shimmery brown with a shift of aubergine. This is a very, very unique color you don't see very often, and it's so gorgeous. And you know, it's not one of those things you would associate with Valentine's Day, but honestly, that aubergine shift is everything. I love it, and it totally goes with the other shades in this palette for a beautiful Valentine's look. And honestly, even the shifts that don't include the aubergine kind of look brown, kind of look dark silver, and they're also beautiful by themselves. I would even rock this even if it did not have that magenta purple shift. And beauties, interestingly enough, I believe our last two shades are also from Luxie. So this one is Glitz and Ritz. I think this is a newer one from Luxie, which is, as you can see, a very subtle romantic pink with sort of an orangey undertone and a blue glaze. This is kind of similar to one of the singles I picked from Luxie in the video where I showed you 12 shifty singles from different brands that had a pink shift. If you haven't checked that video out and you like these kinds of videos, because you should check that video out, I'll put it on the screen. But this looks kind of similar to that one. I don't remember the name of that shade off the top of my head, but it was the first thing I swatched in that video. The only thing is that this one has a blue shift that the other one did not have, and that is kind of adding an element of surprise. And our last shade is this Beauty Saltwater Taffy. And this one is supposed to be sort of an ancient gold with a hint of green. And that green is supposed to add a complete element of surprise. And beauties, greens and pinks are almost complementary, so they actually can look very interesting together in eye looks. So this is one of those golds that has an undertone of burgundy red, which is exactly why I picked this shade, because I figured, you know, if you're using it with some of these pinks, you are going to be in it for some interesting eye looks. And in fact, I do use this in one of my eye looks that are going to come up right after we're done with these swatches. So stick around if you want to see how I use these in looks. But this is it for all the shimmers in this palette. And beauties, happy Valentine's Day. Let me now show you this from a different angle. Beauties, before I jump into the first look, I wanted to talk about a video that I already have up where I talk about 12 special singles that have a pink shift that are ideal for Valentine's Day. I swatched them, talk about them, etc. That video is going to be in the description box. It's also going to show up on the screen if you want to check it out. And those pinks are different from the pinks that we're using in this palette. So I purposefully did different pinks so that you get even more options. Now, let's go into the first look. And for this look, I'm going to use my Singe Beauty. Let's try to do a little bit of a smoky kind of a look. So I'm going to go into this gray color. And you all know I love EO2. This is one of my favorite brushes. Love this color. I love the hue of purple. Hopefully the camera's capturing that hue. I'm now going to pick EO6 and blend this even more. So as I mentioned, I kind of want to keep the look neutrally. So let's go with EO1 into this grayish color, and we're going to go into the outer V. And the reason I'm keeping this look neutral is because the idea of this palette is to not have something very, very pink. I know not everybody likes to wear pink. I know pink is not a color that is easy to wear. It also is not necessarily a color that looks good on everybody, particularly pink shadows. I've had people tell me it makes them look like they've been punched in the eye. We're gonna do a look that has a pink shift, but it's also kind of neutral. I'm gonna use the same brush and rub it under my lower lash line. Beauties, I'm purposefully staying away from these just to show you what kind of look you can make if you were just to use the 8 pans. With whatever's left on EO2 of that first color, I'm going to blend this lower lash line out. Now we're going to go across the lid. Let me first put NYX's glitter primer across like this. Now the color that's going over it really depends on what kind of look you're going for. So if you're going for something dark, evening type of a look, this one is going to be a great option. You can see that it's a very dark base. If you're going for something a little bit more day appropriate, you can really use any of these. These two are of course much lighter, so they will give you a lot more romantic versatility. I really want to use this holographic shade, but let me swatch a few of these just so you have an idea of what other options I have. So this one is probably the most sort of romantic pink. This one is the holographic shade that we're going to use. This one is also beautiful and will give a very romantic hue, and this one will actually take it kind of to a blue greeny kind of a hue, so it's gonna give it a very different type of a shift. But of course I want to stay with very Valentine, so I'm not gonna use the blue shift one. So let's go, as I said, with the holographic one on the center here. Now, one thing that you can do is to use this color or this color in the inner corner. For this kind of a look, I feel like those two colors are a little dark, and I haven't really put a very light shade in these 8 pans, which is by design. The idea was for it to be a smoky Valentine, so we're not going to have very light shade. The idea is for you to be able to do kind of smoky looks with it, which is why I'm not going to put anything in my inner corner, and I'm kind of liking this. If you wanted to make it kind of more pink, you could have used some of this pink color. Another thing you can do, if you are thinking these 8 shades are too dark, instead of the pink you can use a light pink color, and then you can use that light pink to lift the look in the inner corner, to highlight the inner corner. But I purposefully picked dark colors. You know what? I'm actually going to take it a step further. I'm going to go into this one with this brush EO7, and I'm going to put this on my lower lash line. I think I'm done. I don't want it to be too dark. Let me put a lipstick on. I'll be right back. Okay, beauties, I put a little bit of this ColourPop, I don't even remember, blush sticks. I don't know if ColourPop has these anymore. I have a lot of them from back in the day. I should do a declutter of my highlighters and blushes. If you want to see that, write it in the comments below and I'll make a video about it. But I use this on my cheeks. I purposefully wanted to use a lipstick and a blush that really contrasts the eye look. And this is super pink. This is like Barbie pink. This is in color flamenco, if I didn't mention that. And then on my lips, I use Cinderella from ColourPop. This is one of their lipsticks. I'm pretty sure these are available. This is from the Princess collection. But this is kind of the look, and it's supposed to be kind of Valentine's-y, kind of pinky by design. But if you're doing this kind of an eye look and you don't feel comfortable wearing a pink lipstick, not a problem. Put a nude lipstick on and you're fine. Let me bring the camera closer and show you the look from close up. Now for the second look with my beautiful custom-made palette that I think is ideal for Valentine's Day. I already primed with Juvia's shade number 2. I'm going to try to use some Singe and some of these other brushes that I have over here. I'm going to try to use some of these purple colors, but for the first shade, I'm going to go into this pink, kind of a magenta-y, and this beautiful shade is going in my crease. So in the first look, I wanted to do something a little more neutral. In this one, I want to purposefully go a little bit more colorful. And now I'm using EO4 to go into this darker purple shade And I'm gonna do the outer V area. I absolutely love mixing purples and pinks, and also mixing purples and blues and pinks. And I'm gonna use the same brush with the same shade under my lower lash line. And then using E05 in the lighter purple shade, I'm going to blend this lower lash line out. So I think I want to use these two colors in this look. And I think I'm gonna go with this at the center and then this one, Starburst, coming into the center of my lid. So let's get started on that. But before doing that, I need a little bit of NYX. Where are you? Here it is. My desk is a zoo. I'm so glad you all are not seeing my desk because it's not a pretty scene. This is coming here. So as I mentioned, going with this one in the center. And honestly, for a very simple look, you could just keep just using this across the lid. I kind of want to use a few more shades than just this one. So I'm going to use Starburst in the inner corner. Now this shade has some blue shifts. And I'm going to now try to use it from the inner corner coming up. So because I have fat fingers, I'm going to use one of these tiny brushes going back into that shade and putting it in the inner corner. This is one of those like insanely bright and sparkly, and it looks like it has tiny, tiny glitters in it. It's so beautiful. And I'm gonna pick a little bit of the light purple and I'm gonna use a little bit of it up here. Very nice. I'm liking this look. Let me put some lipstick on. I'll be right back. Okay, beauties, this is the completed look. I used Ofra's Santa Monica on my lips, and then I also dabbed a little bit of Nocturne Ash at the center of my lips and on the top here to give it a little bit of a glow. And this glow is probably going to look different from different angles because this does have sort of a greeny bluey shift. I also put a little bit of Pillow Talk highlighter from Ofra on my cheeks. I think I put a lot of highlighter just because I wanted to make sure it shows up on camera, because majority of the time I think I put a lot and I can't see anything on camera when I look at the video. If you guys feel like it's too much, it's because that was on purpose, just because I wanted to make sure it shows. And this is my completed look. By the way, beauties, let me quickly also show you my nails because I have not shown it in any other video yet. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing. I have a lot of videos like this where I do swatch of singles, where I create custom-made palettes. And in fact, I have a playlist for it that's going to be recommended to you on the screen. Have an amazing day, and until next time, bye.